Hey, hey, hey. Time for an out-of-this-world story from rSpace. Is there a perfect recipe for a perfect marriage? Sugar, spice, and everything nice? Today on rSpace, let's stir the pot. Wife opened the marriage against my wishes. I made it even and divorced her despite her beggings. I never imagined I'd be sitting here writing this. I, 35 male, and Allie, 36 female, are married with no kids. After 6 years of marriage, I thought we had a strong relationship. I was wrong. My marriage has been slipping into a dark dungeon for God knows how long, and now I'm left wondering if any moment of those 6 years was real. So, last month I was visiting my grandfather at his farmhouse. It was his 89th birthday, and the family decided to throw a party because his health is spiraling down drastically. Allie also joined me for the celebration, but she returned the next morning because of work. I decided to spend a week with him at his farm. I worked remotely. In my 5 to 6 days of stay, Allie and I were talking on video call every night. On the third and fourth night, I guess we were just on video chat talking random stuff when she casually dropped a bomb that shattered the illusion I had of our marriage. She asked, "Have you ever thought about opening our marriage?" I froze. My stomach churned. My brain was still trying to process the words she just said. I was doing something while on a call. I immediately turned to the screen, hoping I had misheard. I asked her what did she say. She rolled her eyes and said, "No need to overreact. I was just, why don't we open up our marriage? You know, seeing other people. I feel it's fun, just to spice things up." Her approach was so casual, as if she was suggesting a new vacation spot or a different restaurant to try. For a minute, I was numb, just silent, trying to process what she had just said. My mind was racing with several thoughts. This wasn't us. We weren't the kind of couple who needed to spice things up by sleeping with other people. I didn't understand why she was even thinking about this, let alone bringing it up as if it were a normal conversation. I flatly said no, I haven't thought about it, and I don't want to. She shrugged, trying to play it off. "I just thought it might be fun, you know? Something different. I heard about other couples who've done it, and they're happier now." I heard her rant about so-and-so celebrities do this, and so-and-so couples who are so happy at practicing open marriages. My heart was pounding in my chest. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. After she was done, I asked her, "What's up, Allie? How did this thought cross your mind that we should open our marriage?" She gave some excuse that she was reading about these polygamous or polyamorous couples and their happy lives and got fascinated by it. I heard her patiently, trying to spot the red flag, and when she was done, I said with a firm voice, "No, absolutely not. I'm not interested in sharing you with anyone else. That's not the kind of marriage I signed up for." She nodded, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. She quickly changed the subject, but something in my gut told me this wasn't over. I intended to spend a few more days at the farm, but after this conversation, I couldn't stay there any longer. I was anxious. I came back home on the very next day. Allie was at work at the time. I have spent enough time on Reddit to know when your partner suggests open marriage, it's more likely that they have already cheated or on the verge of cheating. I quickly checked her closet and her makeup bassinet to find any evidence of her cheating, but could find none. When she came back in the evening, she wasn't surprised to see me. She said she knew I would run back home after the last night's talk. She got passive-aggressive and turned it around me, saying I was accusing her of cheating. I clarified that I wasn't suspecting her, but I was concerned about her sudden interest in Polly. She had a very twisted logic to my concern. She said, "See, that's why people go for Polly. You don't have to deal with the constant insecurity of whether your partner is cheating on you or not. You know your partner loves you and won't leave you. That's all that matters, right?" I posted that it's not all. I can't share my partner just because they fail to provide me security. It's our responsibility to make each other feel secure. Things got a little heated up, and I bluntly asked her if she was cheating on me. She immediately handed over her phone to check. I'm not that naive as she thinks I am. If she knew I would be home and she's giving her phone to check, then definitely she has wiped out everything in case something was there. There was no point in checking it. I said, I trust her, and I don't want to see it. Then she started crying and said she had never cheated on me. It was just a passing thought that she shared with me, and nothing else. It went to a point where I started feeling guilty about suspecting her. She assured me that she would never cheat on me. We made out, and I thought we were sorted. It was smooth for the next few days. Then, eventually, Allie started getting distant and quieter than usual. She seemed preoccupied, often zoning out during dinner, scrolling mindlessly through her phone, or staring into space when we were supposed to be catching up. She started staying late at work more often, something she'd never done before. I confronted her about it, asking why she was suddenly so busy. She brushed me off, saying her workload had increased and that I was being ridiculous for even questioning it. I didn't let it slide and always nudged her about it, but whenever I did, she would offer me her phone to check. I wanted to trust her, but I couldn't shake the feeling of something was off. She was hiding something. After that conversation, I couldn't get the thought out of my head. Why would she suggest something like that? The timing of her suggestion for an open marriage made everything worse. I was offered a 3-week on-site in Germany. It was a huge opportunity for me, but I was skeptical about leaving Allie with this thought. I started questioning every interaction, every smile, every laugh. The idea gnawed at me, but I pushed it aside, telling myself I was being paranoid. Allie had never given me a reason not to trust her before, and now also she was always offering her phone, so maybe it was just a passing thought and nothing more. After much contemplation, I accepted the on-site offer. I was gone for 3 weeks. We communicated regularly, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she was drifting away. I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, but Allie's messages started to change after a few days. She stopped texting as frequently, and when she did, they were short and distant. I'd send her long updates about my day, about missing her, but she'd respond with quick, one-word replies. It didn't feel like she cared anymore. I asked her once if everything was okay, and she gave the same answer. "I'm just busy, don't worry." I wasn't convinced. I pestered her further, and she again brought up the topic of open marriage, saying, "See, that's why open marriages work these days. There's no boundaries. You're secure with your partner, and you always enjoy your life. You're gone for 3 weeks. I have needs. You're also worried that I might be cheating, so it's better we open up the marriage." This time it wasn't a mere suggestion. She spoke with conviction. It was clear that she wanted it, whether I like it or not. I was speechless. I said, "We'll discuss it once I'm back." I decided to come home early from the trip. I needed to see for myself what was going on. I didn't tell Allie I was coming back. I wanted to catch her off guard and see what she was doing when she thought I was still thousands of miles away. When I got home, everything looked normal. Too normal, actually. The house was spotless, as if she had been preparing for my return. She greeted me with a surprised smile, but something about her reaction felt off. Like she was putting on a show. I watched her carefully. Not too proud, but I also checked her phone but found nothing. Stupid me thought maybe I was being paranoid. I thought she would bring up that topic again, but she didn't. The next day, which was yesterday, she came back from work, stormed inside the room, and said, "Look, we have to do this." I was puzzled. Do what? Without maintaining eye contact, she said, "I've been talking to some people. There's this couple I know, and they've been doing it for a while. It works for them, and I think it could work for us." I could feel my blood boiling. People? What people? She hesitated before admitting that she had met this couple through an online forum. They were all into the open marriage lifestyle, and they had been encouraging her to give it a try. I snapped at her. "You're already talking to them? Without even asking me. Do you realize how messed up this is?" To my surprise, she blew up at me and said, "I have been trying to make you understand, but you're stuck to your fossil concept of monogamy. I'm done waiting for you. I'm opening this marriage whether you like it or not." It took a moment for me to process what she had said, but then I held her shoulder and asked her point blank, "You've already cheated on me, didn't you? Look at me and answer." Her face flushed, and she finally confessed the truth. She admitted that she had been seeing someone behind my back. She mellowed down and stammered, avoiding eye contact. "I haven't cheated on you. I mean, not exactly. It was only once, and I thought you might come around and join me." Only once? She thought I'd join her? My world was spinning. I felt like the floor had fallen out from under me. The anger that had been building inside me finally exploded. I don't easily lose my temper, but I was just short of strangling her at the moment. I somehow controlled myself and said, "You thought I'd come around? You cheated on me. I don't care if it was once or 1,000 times. You've broken my trust and it's the end of the story." She said once, but I'm pretty sure it's not just once. I just stormed out of the house before I did something I would regret. I stayed the night at my cousin's place. Went home today morning to collect my essentials. I plan to stay at a motel for a few days and plan my next move. My marriage is almost over in my head, but I don't want to take any impulsive steps. If I see that witch's face, I might be pushed to the extreme, so I need to stay away from her. So she wanted to spice things up by inviting a third wheel into your marriage. How romantic. Honestly, opening up a marriage almost always guarantees that it's going to end badly. It's just a way for the cheater to feel like they can get away with cheating. You got the right idea though, OP. Stay away from her. Update 1. There's some development in my case for anyone who's interested to read more. As I mentioned, I stayed in a motel for a few days, trying to clear my head and figure out what to do next. I was furious, heartbroken, and confused. A part of me still loved her, but I couldn't get past the betrayal. During this time, I got just one text from Allie and no calls. The text said, "I know you're angry now and it makes sense, but if you think through it, you realize I tried to have you on board. I wanted to experience this with you. It's not cheating. I love you, and this is something that is gonna bring us closer. I also know you love me so much that eventually you'll come along. I assure you it would be fun." I immediately met a divorce lawyer. Costed me extra to get into the queue, but who cares? My life was falling apart. I even paid him extra to have my case expedited. After a week, I returned home and walked in to find her on the phone, openly flirting with some guy. She didn't even look guilty when I caught her. Instead, she smiled at me like nothing was wrong. She hung up the call and came to hug me. I just walked past her and sat on the couch. She hugged me from the side and said, "I knew you'd come along. It would be so much fun. You'll see. I'll help you find someone." I freed myself from her arms, looked dead into her eyes and said, "I've filed for divorce." She froze, and then she laughed out loud and said, "No, you didn't. You can't. You love me." An idea stuck in my head. Let's blindside her. I just smiled and said, "Yes, I loved you," and went to my room and dozed off. I read one story about a guy on Reddit, how his wife wrecked the house when he wanted to divorce her for her infidelity. I didn't want to go through that. I had valuable stuff and I couldn't afford to lose it. So I waited for the paper to arrive. Meanwhile, I tried to avoid conversation with Allie. I even avoided eye contact because her face made my blood boil. In parallel, I'd also rented a condo and was slowly shifting my stuff there in Allie's absence. I was mostly working from home those days. Besides, my witch was too busy getting screwed in her fantasy world that she didn't notice anything. She thought I was just sulking over this and would eventually come along. A week later, I received the papers. I waited for Allie to leave for work so I could pack my things and get out of there. I booked a packer service and got everything shipped. Everything which was mine. The furniture, the couch, and even the closet. I dumped all of her clothes and accessories on the floor and emptied the room. Oh yes, one more thing. I recorded all the conversations I had after returning home. No, she wasn't aware of it. I needed as much evidence as possible. Divorce is an ugly battle. When she came home that evening, she was beyond shocked to find half of the stuff gone. On top of that, when I served her the papers, the look on her face was priceless. She was horrified, like she hadn't thought I'd actually go through with it. At first, she didn't believe it was true. She kept saying, "It's all staged, right? You're doing this just to deter me from opening our marriage, right?" I chuckled and shoved the paper on her face and said, "It's for real, you piece of crap." When she finally got the hang of the situation, she went nuts. She started crying, holding my face with her hands, and said she loved me and couldn't bear to get separated. According to her, she did everything to spice up our marriage. She begged me to forget everything that had happened in the last few months. She swore she'd stop talking to other men and she'd practice monogamy again if that's what I wanted. She was hysterical, clinging to me, trying to convince me to stay. She cried and repeated the same stuff. "I'll do anything. I won't see anyone else, I swear. Just don't leave me." I laughed. The sound bitter and hollow. "You're saying this now because you know I'm serious, but it's too late. You made your bed and you have to lie in it." I packed the last of my things, and as I walked out, she collapsed in the doorway, still crying. But I didn't look back, and drove off. She tried calling me, but I swiftly blocked her from all places. Her best friend tried to contact me on Instagram, but I said I didn't want to talk to anyone. It's been 3 days since then. I have been living alone, trying to keep myself busy. The shock and numbness have worn off, and now all I feel is pain, anger, and loneliness. Have been hitting the gym twice a day, going for short walks. Have started going to work from office to keep away from negative thoughts. Her words are playing in my mind non-stop. It's draining on me. It's all staged, right? Sorry to burst your bubble there, Allie. This one is the real deal. Update 2. Here's an update. She contacted my lawyer and requested him to fix a meeting with me, only after which she would cooperate with the separation. My lawyer insisted I meet her to straighten things out if I wanted a smoother process. Yes, he advised me of certain precautions for the meeting. I emailed her the conditions that I'd record the conversation and we would meet at a public place. I needed to protect myself from whatever manipulation she might try. She pleaded to meet at home so that we could talk more freely. I denied it. Instead, I reserved a corner table in a less crowded cafe. When I arrived, she was already sitting there. She stood up to hug me, but I didn't oblige. I walked past her and sat down on the opposite end. She looked terrible. Puffy eyes, tear-streaked face. She seemed broken, but I couldn't let myself care. I told her I was going to record the conversation and started the recorder. Immediately, tears started rolling down her cheeks and she said, "I'm sorry. I'm already feeling very guilty. Please don't humiliate me any further. I've realized how wrong I was. I was so selfish, so stupid. I thought it would bring us closer." I scoffed. Closer? You thought cheating on me and lying to me would bring us closer. She tried to defend herself, but I gestured her to stop. I asked her to confess the truth. I wanted to know all the details. How did she get into this, and for how long? After stammering and breaking down several times in between, she confessed everything. One of her colleagues practiced poly along with her husband. At the office party, Allie saw her making out with a young intern while her husband was around. Allie got confused and confronted her colleague later, and that's how she got introduced to that world. Her colleague warned her to talk to me and take my consent before indulging in all these, but Allie thought I would come along because I loved her so much. Allie then proceeded with the same intern who was involved with her colleagues. She stopped it there. I said my gut says it wasn't a one-time thing. I asked her how many times and how many guys. I want every detail. She requested me to stop the recording. I said no. She has to speak with the recorder on. She broke down and then laid out the details. She wanted to try it together after my farm trip. Since I didn't agree, she thought to let it go. But then I went on site. She gave in to her temptations. She had been with more than one guy. I insisted on the details. It was 3 guys, separately from multiple instances. 7 sessions in total. Once with 2 of them together. It felt like a sucker punch in the guts. After all these revelations, she had the nerve to say, "But none of it had meant anything." She begged for one last chance, promising to change, promising to go back to how things were before. But I couldn't do it. Trust, once broken, can't just be patched up. She had destroyed everything we'd built together. She was crying so hard that at one point, I felt she was about to faint. I couldn't stop my fears. That was the first time tears rolled down my cheeks. She held my hand and said, "Let's start afresh. I promise you won't regret it. I'll be a good wife. Our love is strong enough to sail through this rough patch. Please, let's get back together." I looked at her and said, "Whenever I see you, I remember the betrayal. How can I take you back knowing you effed behind my back?" I made it clear that reconciliation is off the table. The sooner she accepted it, the better for her. I stood up to leave. She held my hand and asked for one last hug. I stood there like a rock while she hugged me and cried. I freed myself and walked out. I could hear her cries, but I didn't turn back to see what happened to her. I didn't care if anyone saw her wailing. A few days later, her father called me and requested a meeting. Well, I could have denied this, but they have been loving and kind to me all these years. I thought I owed them one meeting, so I visited them. They both were sorry for what happened. Her father didn't say much except that he was concerned about Allie's well-being. She has shut down herself and has been crying all night. She hasn't been eating properly and calling in sick at work every now and then. Her mother tried to push for a reconciliation, but didn't force it. I said, with all due respect, it's over between us. While leaving, her father hugged me and said he understood my pain. It was a relief, honestly. It's been months since then. During the divorce proceedings, I met Allie and her parents in court. She has gotten lean and unrecognizable. Her parents are taking her for therapy. The divorce is still in progress, but emotionally, I've moved on. I've started rebuilding my life without her. And while it hasn't been easy, it's better than living in a marriage full of lies. Allie still tries to reach out, sending me long emails about how she misses me, but I don't respond. I can't. The Allie I fell in love with is gone, replaced by someone I no longer recognize. Some wounds never fully heal, but at least now, I'm finally free. Well, time to mark those emails as spam. Honestly, I probably would have told her dad that I didn't care what she was going through because she deserved it. Stay strong and move on, OP. You've got this. How has your cheating partner asked to spice things up? Share it with us in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you soon.